Yo, what's up epic gamers, my name is Fox and welcome to another video of mine. This video is going to be probably a bit different from my other videos due to the fact that it's about a topic that is really personal to me in some weird way, because I really defend the use of Advanced Combat Tracker a lot. I think ACT is a great addition to Final Fantasy XIV, and I really like the tool as it is used in many ways in order to help the community to become better and be better players overall. Now, I've personally been playing Final Fantasy XIV since around Gordius Midas times, where I didn't raid yet, and then in Creator I started raiding, and that is also exactly when I started using ACT already. I basically started raiding and immediately used ACT. I think I even used it before when I was only doing trials sometimes, but the thing is, what I want to say is that I have never been banned, nor have I been getting into GM jail or anything similar due to the use of ACT. Even though a year ago or even longer ago I was a different person regarding the mentality of FF logs and ACT and DPS numbers, and where I would even consider myself as actually a toxic and elitist person back then, due to the way I called out people for their DPS numbers and looked at ACT solemnly to basically harass people or feel like I should point out that they're doing bad numbers in Party Finder raids or roulettes or wherever basically. I'm gonna show you two clips that were pretty popular on my channel and that really showed how I used the tool ACT back in the days. And I am honestly ashamed of showing these clips, but I feel like because I'm making this video, you should also see how to not use ACT as a tool to harass people. And I want to use myself as an example because I don't want to use other streamers or content creators for Final Fantasy XIV, because I don't think that's fair. So here it goes, two clips that I am really ashamed of, but I think you should see them.
Are we all ready to see this? Whoa, dude, it's not even 99, dude. It's by far not, dude. Oh, look at that. Holy shit. I didn't even know 7th percentile existed, guys. I didn't even know 7th percentile exists, dude.
Wait. Yeah, no, dude. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, one single foe. Oh, that's what I love, baby. Oh yeah. Fucking hell.
Now, you might just want to turn off the video now after watching this behavior, which I understand, but I want to say that you should not, because I'm going to explain now how ACT and how I have changed my mentality overall towards ACT and why ACT is actually a good thing. Because honestly, if you don't use ACT the way I've shown in those two clips, it is probably one of the best things that happened to the game in various ways, honestly. Now, let's start off by one thing that's very obvious for ACT users and why ACT is such a great tool. It is first and foremost for self-improvement. Self-improvement comes a long way in Final Fantasy XIV. Some people don't realize they're doing bad, and I think that's actually applying to the majority of the people that play Final Fantasy XIV. It is very hard in the game to find out if you are performing up to an expected level or not, because the game doesn't tell you if you are, basically. There's no indicators, no performance ratings, nothing whatsoever. You could be doing the wrong rotation for years now by playing this game, and still you have no clue if you're actually doing bad or not, because no one's gonna tell you. The reason why no one's going to tell you is because everyone's afraid of, number one, getting reported for telling you that you're playing bad, basically, and number two, because some people don't want to give unsolicited advice, basically. There's the two reasons why no one's ever going to tell you that you're doing bad in Final Fantasy XIV. So you might think you are actually doing good, you understood how your job works and you're pressing buttons, but in the end you might be doing obvious mistakes like not keeping your GCD rolling or using buffs at the wrong time, blah blah, you know the drill, anything wrong, and you might just actually be underperforming very harshly, but you don't even know it. Now the thing is, I'm not even gonna be like, oh, you should now go up and look guide anything, no, but I think the fact is important that you are aware that you are not doing as good as you might think. ACT will change that. ACT will literally show you that you are underperforming. If you go into any kind of, let's say, Even let's take an expert roulette or any kind of dungeon as an example, because that's something that a lot of people do. Now, a lot of people don't use AoEs in dungeons, right? They think they're useless, they look at potencies. Oh, but this single target skill does more potency than my AoE skill, blah, 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 right? Now, if you go into an expert roulette and you see yourself doing around, I don't know, 4,000 to 5,000 less DPS than the other DPS you have with you, that's alarming, basically. That shows that you are probably doing something very wrong, right? By a difference of 1k to 2,000, it's not a big deal because that could be RNG or gear or whatever, but once the line crosses around 4,000, or if the tank is out DPSing you, that's probably an indication that you are doing things wrong. And this is where I think that ACT comes in very handy personally, because you won't notice that without ACT, because in expert roulette, no one is gonna stop and tell you that you're doing things wrong. Maybe someone makes a comment about using AoEs or using certain buffs or something like that, but no one's actually gonna go out of their way and tell you, hey, listen, you are doing this wrong, you should be doing this, because in the end, it's only an expert roulette. Now, the reason why I say this is because it is actually more important than you think. It's not about just playing the way you want to play or about, hey, I want to do what I want to do. You need to see Final Fantasy XIV like a school project, basically. You have probably had this in school where you had a school project and you had 4 people working on it. You had 1 person that didn't do shit, 2 people that did average, and 1 person that did most of the work, right? Now the same goes for Final Fantasy XIV. Even the person that really doesn't contribute anything to this school project would still get the same mark as the other 4 people. So if everyone got punished in the group by 1 person not doing their homework properly, they would all get bad marks. It is similar in Final Fantasy XIV, but the rating doesn't exist, and that's the issue. You can go into an expert roulette, and if you have 3 people underperforming very harshly, you will take around 25 to 30 minutes. Now you can say, well, it doesn't matter, Fox, how long you take for an expert roulette. And I don't disagree. I really don't disagree if it takes longer or not. But if everyone really performs well, you will take around 12 to 15 minutes, which is half of the time. Again, you can argue time doesn't really matter, which I honestly also don't disagree with. The thing is though, it's not about the time you save, it's about you feeling good about playing this game and not holding people back. It's not even so much about basically causing these more 10 minutes or 5 minutes by not pressing buttons appropriately or anything. It's more about you knowing, alright, I am doing fine in this and I am not being a hindrance to the other people in this party, which is, I think, an important mental factor when playing Final Fantasy XIV, which can also cause anxiety if you go into a, let's say, higher rate because you think you are underperforming but you don't know why, or you are not sure if you're performing but you also don't want to know the truth. Because I also think a lot of people don't really want to know that they're underperforming because they're scared of it or because they think they're doing well. And this is again where ACT comes in and will tell you in a way that's harsh because it will just show you numbers that you are underperforming. Now don't get me wrong, I don't want to say that in expert roulette you need to bring top tier performance. This is a big misconception that a lot of people have about high-end raiders, is that we expect top performance from everyone no matter where. I came to the realization basically that in casual content, which is for example an expert roulette, which is normal trial, normal raid, alliance raids, any kind of content that is made for the normal player base in Final Fantasy XIV that mixes high-end raiders with the most casual people in the game, performance is not expected. These dungeons or duties, they are designed to be cleared even with the lowest performance possible, right? It will just take some time. There's no DPS check, there's no wiping, there's nothing like that. You will clear at some point, 100% guaranteed. That's the game's intention. There is no harm basically in doing less DPS than you can do on your job. Whenever I personally go into one of these instances, I try to do my very best because I don't want to feel like I'm holding back or causing issues to the other people that I'm playing with. But that's of course a personal mentality thing. Again, just to sum up, this is so important that a lot of people I see, even friends of mine or people that are, you know, Twitch viewers, don't expect top tier performance in every content you go into. I really can't stress this enough because it is something that bothers me personally a lot. Because I don't want to expect performance from someone that plays this game maybe 1 hour a day or maybe 3 hours a week for fun. That's unfair to expect them to look up openers and rotations and stuff like that. They are literally just logging onto the game to have fun, do an expert roulette and log off. They're not there to look up openers and feel good about doing DPS. They don't give a fuck. Let me be honest with you. And you know what? That's absolutely fine. That's why it is casual content. That is why there is no DPS check. That are the reasons why it is designed like that. So please stop expecting high DPS in casual duties. This is something I really can't stress enough, that I see so many people complain about expert roulette and normal trials, normal raids, etc., or mocking people in there. And honestly, that's very tiring to me. I just don't like seeing that anymore. I really don't. I used to be the same, but it's something that you have to understand, that these people just don't care, and that is fine because they don't want to play more, right? They don't want to give fucks about it, which is totally acceptable. Now, in other duties where, for example, Savage and X-Primals, it's a different story. These duties have DPS checks. They have inherited basically saying you need to do a certain amount of DPS to pass this duty, which is in that case something where you're not basically allowed to just underperform insanely. And this is again where I will just mention this whole idea of a school project. Basically, you have to reach a certain mark, the DPS check, and everyone needs to contribute. If one person is not contributing, that means that the other people just need to basically contribute more, right? They need to do the work that one person isn't doing, which is unfair, right? But in Final Fantasy XIV, it seems that people are fine with underperforming and rather mark the people that are underperforming as good, and it is fine to underperform, and see the people that call them out for underperforming as toxic and elitists. While, let me tell you, as much as I said it's okay to not expect performance in expert roulettes, it is okay to expect performance in higher duties. And if you don't understand why that is the case, then take the example of the school project to basically show you how the performance of one person can affect the other people in your party. But instead of 4 people, you have 8 people. So next time you see a healer doing 0 DPS or really nothing at all in an extreme stuff like Extreme Primal or Savage, it is absolutely fine to say something. Even if you use ACT, because let's be real here, I'm not gonna look at someone else's casts while I am doing my rotation. That won't happen, no way. But if I am hitting an enrage because someone is not using DPS, that is the moment where this is becoming a problem. I'm gonna give you an example of why actually calling someone out or using ACT is a positive thing in this situation. I yesterday was in a party finder for around 6 hours. Not a joke, we tried to clear it E4 Savage, Titan, right? And I had this, we had a white mage and a red mage that were pretty much very underperforming. I had the co-healer of the white mage in my Twitch chat, and they were talking to me in Twitch chat and saying it's so hard to heal this, he's basically not healing, he's not doing much. And on top of that, I also noticed on the ACT he's not doing a lot of DPS. Now the DPS personally for me weren't a problem, because I don't really care too much about it as long as it's, I don't know, like just some number that is not 0 basically. I just won't say anything anymore. But about the healing thing, right? That is then an issue if the other co-healer says it's so hard to heal this, etc. Now that's when I started to look into things. I used the log, I uploaded to FFXIV to realize that this white mage is basically standing there doing nothing for most of the time. That's the moment where I saw this person is not ready to clear even for Savage. They are not good enough to clear this raid. Now you might say, but Fox, you're not someone to judge that. But in the end, I am in this party and I'm helping them out, investing my time to help other people clear this instance, right? People that actually deserve this clear. I went over this in my stream a lot, because when you have that one person or 2 people that are really underperforming in a party finder, it demotivates the people that are actually okay or ready to clear. That white mage and the red mage were really underperforming, and other people that need to clear were actually performing on par. They were doing fine, they were doing good. And I started feeling bad for the other people that were doing good because that white mage was playing so bad that he was holding the group back to clear. We would die to AoE damage, we would die, tanks would die to auto attacks, and damage wise we were very lackluster basically. And that's in, I don't know, weak, irrelevant at this point, right? Most people cleared Savage that wanted to clear it. We are close to the next tier, everyone has the best gear, etc, right? Now this is where ACT becomes a good tool, because I was able to see this really hard underperforming white mage on FFXIV, seeing that his healing was bad and his DPS was bad at the same time, and basically determine, okay, he's actually not doing anything. He's just standing there, not casting, I don't know, looking at the air, thinking about mechanics, I don't know, but he was not ready. So instead of going out of my way to harass that person and say, yo, what the fuck are you doing? I basically changed my stance on this. I'm saying in chat, basically in party chat, hey, I'm sorry, white mage, you're not ready to clear this. I will either leave or you leave, right? Then either the party leader kicks that person, which is then probably considered by some people some form of harassment, but in the end it is positive harassment due to the fact that the other people in the party that were ready to clear get a higher chance at clearing that raid and are not being held back by the person that was clearly and obviously holding back the other 7 people in that party to clear that raid, if you know what I mean. After we kicked the white mage basically, then we went on to continue raiding, and it took us another 3 hours because the red mage was also severely underperforming, but not up to a standard where I'd say it's impossible to clear. So we kept playing, and after basically 6 hours in a party, I was able to finally clear it for these people, and that made me very happy, and I was very exhausted. But that's just a personal experience to show you how ACT, even though it is kind of used in a bad way, in the end is a positive and good way, because we got the clear for people that deserve that clear. The person that really did not deserve the clear, I told them in party chat, listen, you're not ready, go into training parties. Maybe that's hard to hear, maybe they don't want to hear that truth, but I'm sorry, it's just how things are. If you are not good enough to clear a raid, train more. That's how life works. And then you might say, okay, but Fox, this is a game. Yeah, but there are also things that maybe you should not do in this game. Which brings me to another point of ACT that I am very torn basically, which is the use of triggers. There is a lot of triggers for ACT. These might be audible triggers, which are in my eyes a very okay grayish line. There are some mechanics that I think are okay to be used on. I don't really care if someone uses audible triggers. They are whatever, because your raid leader could do most of the callouts in any way. And I think that audible triggers are just basically a reminder instead of a help tool, right? So I can basically focus more on my job and I don't need to look for mechanics because someone will call them out in my headset. I personally don't use any triggers at all besides the UCOB nail quotes. That's the only set of triggers I have in my ACT. The rest I don't use. I'm the fond opinion that if you use triggers and say at the same time Final Fantasy XIV is easy, you are a hypocrite, because you're basically implying that you are doing as good as you can do, but you are using a helping tool, right? So I suggest to people that use triggers to just basically get good and not use them, to be honest, because that makes the game more interesting. Playing a new job plus doing the old mechanics is a very interesting mix of new things to your brain and actually requires attention because you need to focus on mechanics and your rotation at the same time. So yeah, that's just a point there. And then the next time, the next step of triggers is, you know, visual triggers that really show you on screen what is about to happen, everything. And I personally think those are over the top kill and they should be forbidden. I think that's cheating and you will not change your mind on that. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, but accessibility, help, and it hurts no one, right? The biggest argument I always get, yeah, but it hurts no one. It hurts no one else if I use triggers, if I use you know, some form of help to clear this raid. Yeah, but the thing is, what is the sense in doing this high-end raid if you need to use help to just clear, right? Why are you doing it? Because in the end, like, you just use tools to make it easier for you to clear something hard. It's kind of controversial to do that. I feel like it's a bit of a hypocrite move, because why are you attempting something hard if you need helping tools in order to clear it, right? That's basically my idea behind this. when this is like going to compete in some kind of sports event, but you need to use drugs in order to be able to compete in it, you know, like that's basically what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to run a marathon. Well, I mean, myself, I would never run a marathon, but let's say I would run one and then I use drugs in order to just do it. I wouldn't trade anyone else to do it, but why would I even try to do it if I need to use drugs in order to compete in that marathon event, right? That's a similar comparison, and I think that these kind of triggers are very bad for the game, and they push the game into a bad direction because this can end in several ways. Basically, either Square Enix says, okay, we're banning all of ACT, we're banning all modding, we're banning everything that's third party, boom, everything is gone. And which would be very sad because there's a huge modding community behind the game, which is, modding is something very nice for a lot of people. They use it. I use also my hot mod basically. And this is the only part of ACT that I don't like personally. The whole trigger part and, you know, CACbot, etc, etc. Now, basically, to come back to my original point, ACT is a good tool. ACT will help you. And another thing that ACT did for the community is to help us determine stats. The best in slot set you are using, probably, that you grab from balance, or, you know, knowing that crit is probably your most favorite stat over determination interacted, all comes from people that use ACT to find out these things. Because of how damage works and calculations are done, right? Because of they stand at dummies for hours and hours and hours to just hit it there to see variations in how stats and how gear does affect our damage basically. And they also use ACT. It is such a good tool. It helps our community in so many ways to become better and be better player and challenge Square Enix to make harder raids for us, right? Because if no one would clear ultimates or if no one would clear Savage, they would make them easier basically, right? Now with us clearing, so many people clearing T, because I've seen so many people clear the new ultimate, which is such a good thing, honestly. I really like that. Because that means that maybe they're going to make a bit harder ultimates, right? They're seeing, okay, there's a lot of people that clear it. Maybe we're going to make it a bit harder, which means it's going to be more challenging content, which means that we will take longer to progress it, which means that we're going to play the game longer, etc., which is healthy to the game, in my opinion, right? So ACT, again, bringing something good to the table that is really, really important, because these best in slot sets and everything allow us for better DPS. And overall, just playing the game better, right? All these guides and everything, they are not done with ACT because damage number fluctuate and stuff like that. But overall, they are very good, right? Now, lastly, one last point I want to make, which was a huge point back in Stormblood, not nowadays anymore so much, but FFLogs. FFLogs is, of course, would be non-existent without ACT. We can agree on that, right? And FFLogs sparkles this kind of, for a lot of people, this competition. Good parses, ranking numbers, speed running, you name it. A lot of people like to compete on FFLogs. Like, it's a minority of people that play this game, but in some way, everyone does care about their parse if they're Savage rating. People die on the pull, and then you're gonna hear them, oh man, we cleared on the pull, I died. You know? Why would you care if you don't care about your parse, right? Because there is no record of you dying in any kind of form besides a FFlog, right? So FFlogs is a very healthy thing for the game because the competition makes people come back and play more. You're gonna go into this party just to get better logs or improve your logs in order to have better chances at recruitment, maybe, because you want to convince someone you're a better player. So you're going to aim to get, like, I don't know, orange logs on every single fight on a certain job and whatnot. So FFlogs, again, sparkles a competition which makes people come back to Final Fantasy XIV. I am absolutely aware that I really drifted off of the topic of ACT in this video, but this was to be expected. It's a video that really, I feel, is very personal to me because I see so many people honestly just talking negatively and saying, oh, herder, it's such a bad tool, but there's no facts to back it up, honestly. All they say is it is contributing to elitism, toxicity, and you name it, right? And honestly, that's just about how you use the tool. Like, that's honestly, if you choose to harass someone for the DPS, that's your choice. That's not the tool's fault, honestly. Yes, ACT might open a certain window with that and give you the opportunity to even harass them due to showing numbers. But Honestly, if you choose to harass someone just because they're low DPS, you should honestly reconsider what you're doing in Final Fantasy XIV and why you are even harassing someone for doing low DPS, because you just don't know what they are doing behind their PC or console. And this especially applies, again, I can't stress this enough, to low-end duties. If you're playing casual content, please do not expect someone to perform at a top tier level. That's just ridiculous and something that will get you nowhere, to be honest. Again, I use personally ACT for number one, self-improvement, see how I am doing, uploading it to FFLogs, comparing to other people, etc. Number two, I use it to see if the party has enough DPS to clear what we are doing. Every raid has a certain amount of DPS required because of how raids work in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm talking, of course, about high-end duties. And that's about it. I don't use it for triggers nor to harass anyone anymore, I have to say, because I used to be like that. But that part of me completely vanished, to be honest, because instead of focusing on logs, I now focus more on expanding my knowledge on every job in the game and helping people clear content, which is the main part of my stream, helping people clear Savage. Basically, I go in there, provide high DPS and try to get them a clear. And so I use ACT to see if we are meeting the DPS check. And if we are not meeting the DPS check, if we wipe to enrage, or if you wipe with 1 death, which should not be the case in basically the 27th of January, when the next tier is 1 month away or even less, then I start looking at where is the problem. Only then. The thing is, I don't care about how much DPS someone does unless it becomes a problem, right? You could be doing 0 DPS for all I know. If the rest of the players are all picking up, you're slacking. I personally don't care. As long as I can clear this, and then, yeah, a lot of people are going to be like, but Fox, you just released the 0 DPS healer into the next Savage tier. But I don't care. I'm going to be probably in their next clear party also and help them clear again, you know? And yeah, so ACT, honestly, it's a positive tool. It's a good tool. It's there to help you, help me, help the community to become better at this video game. That's also why Square Enix officially says it's a gray line. They don't ban you for using ACT. They don't ban you for showing ACT on stream. They ban you for harassing people with ACT, just like they ban you for harassing anyone in Final Fantasy XIV, no matter how or what you do with it. If you just harass someone because they're playing a certain race or because they are wearing some weird looking glamour, you're gonna get banned no matter what, right? That has nothing to do with ACT, that's harassment in general. Just using ACT opens this window to harassment of DPS, which is another form of harassment that just is there, right? You can even get banned or sent to jam jail for basically standing there and spamming emotions in Limsa, right? It's all possible in Final Fantasy XIV. So to say that ACT is a negative tool just because you can use it to harass someone is probably one of the most brain-dead things I have ever heard, to be honest, right? I mean, I'm getting a bit passionate here about this whole thing because I'm such a fan of using this tool to help improvement and to just, you know, see what you're doing, that I am very not happy about people misspreading information about ACT. You know what I mean? I'm just so not happy about this, and it really makes me angry to see people like that. But yeah, it's been around, I don't know, 28, 29 minutes, and I think I'm dragging on at this point, but I hope you get the point. I hope you understood why ACT or why parsing in Final Fantasy XIV is good and why it will help you and me and other people in this game. And I hope I was able to convince at least one person that previously thought it was a bad tool to maybe install it, try it out, to help themselves improve, or maybe you just don't care about DPS, which is also fine. As long as you don't go into high-end duties, it doesn't matter how much DPS you do. It literally doesn't. You can underperform in expert roulettes. No one cares, honestly. It's casual content, and as long as you have fun, that's the most important thing in Final Fantasy XIV, I think, for everyone here. You are doing okay. So yeah, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a long talk, but I feel like I had this, I needed to say this basically, right? So yeah, I hope you guys also agree with most points. If you disagree, you are free to leave a comment of course, underneath the video, and I encourage people to disagree with me, to basically contradict my points, say you're wrong on this, because I'd like to see other people's views and opinions on these things I said, right? Or maybe you're just disgusted by my first 2 clips and left the video, and I would... you get my point, right? So again, yeah. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you for the next video, I hope. Cheers, boys.